Welcome back, everyone. I would like to get back to basics on my channel in 2023, which means more tutorials and guides for PC building. And I actually haven't done a full how to build a PC tutorial for a while. I have one of those in the works that's going to be coming soon. But today I thought I'd take a step back from that and approach things from the planning phase, because a lot of people don't know where to begin when they want to build a gaming PC. And a lot of people are also a bit concerned about how bad pricing has gotten recently, especially if you look at the graphics cards that have launched in the recent months that cost $1,000 and up. So if you're ready to embark on your next gaming PC building journey, join me. And we're actually not going to start by planning out the PC itself. We're going to start with the monitor. Excellent! Today's video is brought to you by the Corsair Xeneon Flex OLED gaming monitor, which can bend from completely flat up to 800R curvature. But there's a lot more to this display, which features an ultra-wide 45-inch 3440 by 1440 panel with a 240 Hz refresh rate and 0.03 millisecond gray-to-gray response time. The spec list also includes NVIDIA G-Sync compatibility, AMD FreeSync Premium certification, Auto HDR with up to 1000 nit brightness, 99% DCI P3 color gamut coverage, a sophisticated burn-in prevention system, and an integrated stand with a range of connectivity. Click the sponsor link in the video description for more on the Corsair Xeneon Flex. So before I explain my monitor first approach, let's get down to brass tacks. How much is this going to cost me, Paul? You might be asking, because for a lot of people getting into video games, whether you're talking about console gaming or a gaming PC, simply boils down to how much money you have to spend. And as GPU prices have been pretty insane over the past couple years and haven't gotten that much better towards the end of 2022, I have seen the comment many times that PC gaming is just too expensive. I'm going to go and do console gaming instead. But $1,250 is the price that I'm aiming for today, not to dance around it too much. And here is how that is broken down. About $900 of that is spent directly on the core components for the PC itself. About $250, $200 to $300 spent for the monitor, and about $100 spent on accessories that you will also need to get up and running, such as a mouse, keyboard, and headset. Now, I think this is a reasonable price to aim for a few different reasons. For one, I'm not just talking about the core PC itself, I'm talking about the entire set of hardware that you would need for the experience. So if you're comparing it to console gaming, the flagship consoles cost $500 right now. If you want to add a TV to that setup, that's probably going to cost you at least $500, if not a bit more than that, depending on the size and resolution. So that starts you out for a full console gaming setup at around $1,000 anyway. We're not going too much further up from there to $1,250, and again, we're including not just the PC, but the monitor too. That's also right around the same price that the RTX 4080 sells at for just the graphics card by itself. So that's the second goal of this video, is to show you guys how you don't necessarily need to pay those premium prices for the newest and fastest stuff by going for hardware that's maybe one generation old or that is priced at a discount because the newer stuff has launched. You can save yourself quite a few dollars and still get yourself a PC gaming experience that's very similar to that you would get by spending $4 or $5 grand or more. Of course, the last argument to make is that of utility, and while a console can be very useful for gaming and can also double up as a media center, a gaming PC is also a PC and can be used for a variety of other things, whether you're talking about work stuff, school stuff, other recreational entertainment activities. Chances are you will get a lot more use out of a gaming PC than you would out of a typical console experience. So those are my reasons and my justifications for the starting price here of $1,250. So let's bring this back around to my first step, step one in my three-step process for how to be a PC gamer, and that is to choose out a decent gaming monitor. There's a reasonable chance that you might already have access to a monitor at home, but here's why I think you should go for a gaming monitor. For one, the monitors that I've chosen today are not terribly expensive. We're looking at $200 to $300 in terms of price. Secondly, we're talking about PC gaming, and there's a lot of things that a monitor made for PC gaming has that a typical monitor does not. We're looking at a higher resolution than HD 1080 here. We're going for 2560 by 1440, which is kind of the sweet spot in the middle between 1080 and a 4K panel, which will cost a lot more and also require a lot more GPU horsepower to get good frame rates out of. In the price range we're looking at, we can also find plenty of 27-inch monitor options, and 27-inch, in my opinion, is a great middle-of-the-road starting out point for a PC gamer. It's large enough to fill your frame of view and give you a premium experience, especially if you're upgrading from something like a 21-inch or 24-inch monitor. And the kicker for PC gaming, and why you might want to consider upgrading your monitor if you're still going with something like 1080 60 Hz, is high refresh rate gaming, and in particular, variable refresh rate gaming. Most monitors going up to a few years back would peak out at about 60 Hz, or 60 refreshes, or 60 frames per second, which for quite some time was perfectly adequate for PC gaming. But it was discovered, especially for FPS games or twitchy games that require a lot of action and movement and precise quick aiming, that higher refresh rates could give a slight competitive advantage as well as a better gaming experience overall. So we saw the advent of 120 Hz, then 144 Hz, and now monitors are pushing up to 240 Hz, 360 Hz, and beyond. But again, we're trying to stick to a budget here, so going for the newest and fastest stuff isn't always an option. We're not going to aim for 360 Hz or even 240, but 144 to about 165 to 170 Hz is a nice sweet spot where you can find good monitors that provide a markedly better gaming experience, especially for fast-paced games, which again are only going to cost around $200 to $300. The other part of your gaming monitor that I would suggest you double check before making a purchase decision, that is if you're not going to be using one of the monitors that I'm suggesting today, is to look at the panel technology. TN or twisted pneumatic panels are pretty common. They can achieve high refresh rates, but they do not do as well in terms of color reproduction, so I would recommend staying away from those if you can. You're going to have a better experience both for gaming as well as media playback, watching movies and videos, or especially if you do any content creation type activities, if you go for a better panel, typically IPS or VA are the panel technologies that you can get that give better color depth while also not sacrificing in terms of refresh rate and also not costing ridiculous amounts of money. But I think I should prove my point by showing you guys a few examples of what I'm talking about. I have at least 3 monitors here that sort of fit the bill in terms of the price range and features. We're starting off with the least expensive one, which is this one from HP. This is actually a 2021 model, which I believe is part of the reason you can find it with some pretty good discounts right now, selling for $210 over on Amazon, and the model is the X27Q. Here's a quick rundown of the specs that I think are important. Of course, we're hitting that 27-inch size. It is an IPS panel, not a TN. It's Quad HD, QHD typically is how that's referred to, 2560 by 1440, so significantly better than 1080 in terms of your sharpness and clarity. We have a 165 Hz refresh rate, which is even just a little bit better than 144, and it is AMD FreeSync Premium compatible. You want to have at least AMD FreeSync compatibility for a monitor that you look for. That will give you VRR or variable refresh rate support, and typically any monitor that is FreeSync compatible will also work with G-Sync displays as well. The flip side though, and just a brief word of warning, is that if you get a monitor that has NVIDIA G-Sync support, specifically with an NVIDIA G-Sync chip inside, that actually will not work with an AMD Radeon graphics card for variable refresh rate. So if you happen to already have an NVIDIA G-Sync monitor, make sure you get an NVIDIA graphics card to pair up with that. Or alternatively, if you're out looking for a monitor, I'd recommend veering towards the FreeSync options because they just have wider compatibility and gives you the option to go with AMD or NVIDIA for the graphics card. And long story short, AMD has much better deals on graphics cards right now. Other features you might look at is going to be response time. Response time can be very finicky. They will often post the peak response time rather than the average response time. Here is where I'd highly recommend checking out individual reviews of the monitors to make sure you're not getting something with very high response time like 10 milliseconds or more. You might take a glance at HDR support. This one has HDR 400. Do note that to get true HDR, you really need HDR 1000 or more, but this does have some compatibility there with 400 nits of brightness. A VESA mount is nice to have so you can swap out to a monitor stand if you so desire. And color gamut coverage is going to be a good indication of color depth. sRGB is easier to hit a high percentage of, so all these monitors in this roundup here get to 99%. If you are considering content creation, look at the DCI-P3 color gamut coverage because that is a much broader spectrum, and if it has more of that, then it's going to give you better color representation overall. But again, we're aiming for middle of the road specs to get us a good price at the same time, and this is a screaming deal for $210. Here's another option from LG, their LG Ultragear QHD 27-inch. This one's $250, and it actually is a slightly lower refresh rate at 144 Hz. Again, we have many of those specs that we're looking for, such as the size, an IPS panel, 2560 by 1440 resolution, good sRGB color gamut coverage at least, 1 millisecond response time, and nice that they're confirming both G-Sync and FreeSync support for this model. So there's another solid choice for around $250. Finally, we have this Gigabyte M27Q 27-inch. This one goes up to 170 Hz refresh rate, and again is FreeSync Premium, so it'll work with both AMD and NVIDIA graphics cards. This one being closer to $300 with similar specs to that $210 model might make you question, like, what is it that makes this one significantly better? I will say that Tim over on Monitors Unboxed, who reviews lots of different monitors, put this monitor in his A tier in terms of his rankings for monitors that he reviewed in 2022. And beyond that, we have 92% DCI-P3 coverage, and this is a SS, or super speed IPS panel, which according to Gigabyte gives it a response time of 0.5 milliseconds. Again, that is peak. And Gigabyte even throws in a KVM. There's a built-in KVM to this panel, which you may or may not find useful. Of course, with PC gaming and PC building, there's always the upgrades that are on the horizon, the things that you might buy to upgrade to later on, or the things you might consider, oh, should I spend a little bit more money on something like that? So it's really easy to suddenly be like, well, here's a 34-inch ultra-wide monitor with a very similar resolution. It's just 21:9 instead of 16:9, so 3440 by 1440 IPS panel. This is another one of those Gigabyte monitors that is quite well reviewed, actually. But again, you're looking at $130-ish premium over the non-ultra-wide version of that. So just throwing that in there as a reminder that as you're searching out for parts, you're always going to find something and be like, ooh, I could upgrade there, or I could upgrade there, or I could upgrade there. It's an easy path to go down, but remember that if you have a budget, you should probably stick to that, and it's better to buy all of your parts at once to build your system and get it up and running than to get it piecemeal and plan to buy things a month or 2 or 3 down the line, because you want to get all your parts and make sure that they function so that you can return them and get replacements if necessary. So assuming that you've picked out a monitor using these specs and recommendations that I've provided you, the next thing you'll want is that actual gaming PC. And since you're watching my channel, I'm assuming that you're going to be building it yourself, because in my opinion, that's the best way to go. This is not a fully functional PC. This is one that I built out of Lego compatible bricks back in December. You can check out that video if you're interested. I just have it here as a visual aid. The actual PC that I'm recommending today, I was actually able to bring in for less than $900, about $861. This is not including tax and shipping and stuff, so it might go up a little bit from there. But for our CPU, we have a Ryzen 5 5600, which you can find for $140. It's only about $10 or $15 more than the lowest price it was during the Black Friday sales. The nice thing about this one is it comes with a stock cooler, so you don't need to spend any extra money there. I have 2 options for your graphics card, either an RTX 3080 12 gig, go for the 12 gig, not the 8 gig, or an RX 6700 XT. Both of those can be had for $360 right now. Do note that the 6700 XT is going to get you significantly better raw performance in terms of frame rates, about 25% more on average. But some people really like NVIDIA, and even though the RTX 3060 12 gig has a $330 MSRP, they're still willing to pay $360 for it. So, you know, it's not spending $1,200 on an RTX 4080, so I don't blame you if you go that route, but I've listed both of them here so you can have a choice. For memory, we're going with a 16 gig kit of DDR4 3600. This is probably one of the first things I'd upgrade in this build. Going up to 32 gigs is a good bet. We have a reasonably priced motherboard, and that's part of the reason why it's difficult to recommend AM5 platform right now. You need to spend well above $200 just to get a decent motherboard on that platform. Whereas right now for B550 boards, which are the last generation AM4 platform, you can find a bunch around the $120 to $140 range. For a case, you can spend about $70 to get a reasonable case. The one I'm using today is the Fractal Focus 2, but feel free to swap that out if you have a case that you like a little bit better. For storage, you're going to want to start out with at least a single M.2 NVMe SSD. There's a 1TB Kingston NV2 for $53. Yes, there are faster NVMe SSDs than this out there, but not better deals in terms of price per gigabyte. Finally, you will want a power supply. We have the EVGA 700BR, 700 watt 80 plus bronze, which gives you a bit of breathing room as well as the potential to upgrade to a better graphics card down the line. If you're looking at what wattage you should get in terms of your power supply, you should look at your graphics card that you intend to get eventually and what's recommended for that. It can be difficult to swap out a power supply because you have to rewire all of the power cables in your system. So for some, it's worth it to invest an extra $10 or $15 or $20 up front to get higher wattage. For others, it might make more sense to just go with lower wattage for now, and then maybe upgrade your power supply at the same time as you upgrade your graphics card further down the line. If you are shopping for PC parts, it's always best to reality check as well. Here on Amazon, for example, the 5600 is $160 right now. Do note that there is an upgrade to a 5600X that you could go for. Those are around $170 as of the making of this video. So opt to buy your CPU from the outlet that's giving it at a better price. $150 saves you $10 over at Newegg, and you also get a game bundle along with the purchase, which may or may not be useful for you. If you don't care about that game bundle, then buy it B&H right now, where you can get the 5600 for $140. And of course, it kind of goes without saying, but a reminder to everyone who is within range of a Micro Center. Micro Center typically has some of the best prices on CPUs that you can get, but you have to go into store to take advantage of those, and not everyone has a Micro Center local to them, but definitely check it out if you do. Next we have motherboards, and unfortunately even the B550 series boards I feel like have crept up in price a little bit, perhaps as a reaction to all of the more recently launched motherboards being crazy expensive. So the MSI B550A Pro for $150 is not the best price. You can typically find this for 10 or 20 bucks cheaper if you go back a few months. The Asus Tough Gaming B550-Pro for $140 I think is a pretty reasonable deal. This one has a nice set of features, good build quality, and that crucial USB 3.2 Gen 2 front panel header. So among the handful of B550 boards that can be found for 150 bucks or less, I'm opting for this one today because it's an Asus model, Asus Prime. Again, we have a pretty nice feature set overall in terms of connectivity and expansion. Compared to the other board, this board does not have that USB 3.2 Gen 2 front panel header, so if that's something that you require, consider spending $15 to $20 more for one of the other ones I've listed. But the kicker here is that there is a promo code right now, so you can apply that immediately and get this board for $125. Okay, rounding out the parts, we have a solid and not flashy Team T-Force Vulcan Z memory kit here for $43. Yes, $43. Apart from it being DDR4, so it's compatible, 16 gigs, so it has the right capacity, and not the tightest timings, but reasonable timings at 18, 22, 22, 42. It is difficult to beat this price of 43 bucks. Again, if you're gonna potentially upgrade, I'd say go for a higher capacity kit first, so a 32 gig kit. And I do have one of those linked in the description, the old standby G-Skill Ripjaws 5 kit, which can be found for $84 right now. Prices tend to go up from here if you want a kit that has faster speed or tighter timings, or of course, the addition of RGB, but it's up to you whether or not you want to spend part of your budget on those aesthetic features, because RGB is cool and all, but I don't want to spoil anyone's fun, but RGB actually does not get you additional frames per second in the games you're playing. What will get you more frames per second is upgrading to a better graphics card. So the RTX 3060, again, is sort of like one of the least painful NVIDIA RTX series graphics cards to buy. Again, this has an MSRP of $330. It's going for $360, but at least it's a model that has a decent dual fan cooler and everything. There's another one over on Newegg, the MSI Ventus model. Again, as more of a budget model of this card, but it does have a dual fan cooler. This one also has a promo code that brings it down to that same price of $360. But again, you will get better frame rates out of the games you play, by and large, by going with an RX 6700 XT, typically around 25% more frames than the 3060 12 gig. But that will vary based on the game that you're playing, so I'd recommend checking some independent reviews if you want to be sure of that before you make a purchase decision. And again, here we have a couple models, the MSI Mech here, dual fan cooler, $360. And oh, AMD is giving you a couple free games with this, so that's maybe a nice little add-on. Or we have the ASRock Radeon RX 6700 XT Challenger D, which is also available for $360, and also has access to that 2-game RX 6000 series deal. Rounding things out, like I said, a case you should be able to get for about $70. The features you want on a case is good airflow, so something like mesh on the front is nice to have. If you're on a budget looking for a case that does include fans, will be a good way to go. You can of course buy and add on your own fans, and you can get much nicer fans, but the ones that ship with this one in particular are nice and quiet, get the job done, and you get 2 of them. And additional aesthetic features again, like tempered glass side panel is nice to have. So this one has a nice range of all of those features, again for only $70, but there are lots of cases out there on the market, so go ahead and choose one that suits your aesthetic tastes better if you so desire. Rounding things out, we've got storage, 1 terabyte NVMe SSD for $53, tough to beat right now. The 2 terabyte one of this is $110, which I feel like has also gone up in price in the past month or two. Power supply, 700 watts, 80 plus bronze. Yes, you can pay more money for a modular power supply. Power supply prices, I feel like, have also gone up a little bit versus what they were towards the end of 2022. But again, a modular power supply is convenience and everything, but it's not necessary and it's not going to affect your performance. So there's my parts list, $861, actually a little bit less than $900. So if you were to pair that build up with the HP monitor that's $210, you could actually come in a decent amount below my total price of $1,250. But let's move on to the third step in making yourself an epic PC gamer, and that is everything else that you might need. Other than what I'm listing today, you're gonna need, like electricity, and you're gonna need an internet connection, but the foundational things that you need just to have a setup that you can game on, apart from the monitor and the actual computer, are just gonna be some accessories. You can get by with just a mouse and keyboard. It's nice to have a headset too, especially one with a mic if you wanna get on Discord or something like that and actually talk to the teammates that you're playing with. But even that you can get away without, at least for starters, and you can go with like the speakers that are built into your monitor, for example. example. But again, you don't need to spend upwards of $100 just on like a fancy mechanical keyboard. Likewise, you don't need to spend $100 plus just on a mouse. There are nice mouses and keyboards out there, and that is something you could potentially upgrade to. But I've recommended the Cooler Master Devastator combo for quite some time. The current version is a Devastator 3. You can sometimes even find the previous versions for a little bit less than this. It is an RGB backlit keyboard and a gamery looking mouse, so you can change the colors and everything. Other than that, it's not mechanical, it's a rubber dome keyboard, but it gets you by for now, and it's only $45 for the combo. Likewise, for a headset, it's good to spend maybe a few extra dollars on something that's not the cheapest and most bare bones budget that you can. The HyperX Cloud and Cloud 2 headsets have been recommendations for quite some time because they actually have good audio quality alongside being not crazy expensive. This one's $70 right now, so yes, this combo together is going to be a little bit over $100, closer to $115, but since we saved some money on the PC build itself, hopefully you have a few extra bucks to spend there too. So there you have it, guys, how to be a PC gamer in 2023 for the entry-level price of $1,250. Not inexpensive, not cheap by any stretch, but I would say comparable to a console gaming experience and some of the benefits that you get with PC gaming, and especially building your own system so you have the confidence to upgrade it down the line, I think make that price well worth it. Speaking of upgrades and other things that you might do down the line, upgrading your PC is one of the great joys of actual PC building. And as opposed to something like a gaming laptop or especially a console, the upgrade potential for a gaming PC is really one of the things that has always drawn me to it, because as you save up some money down the line, you can pop in an updated graphics card, add some more storage, add some more memory, and get yourself a much better experience overall. There's even one last thing that I didn't really mention or bring up, and it's not this white headset. Again, I just have this here as a visual aid. But how much do actual games cost? They can be pretty expensive, and that's one of the last benefits for PC gaming that I wanted to point out. PC gaming gives you access to a whole range of retro PC stuff, emulation for playing titles off of old consoles that you wouldn't have access to on one of the newer consoles, and multiple game services such as Steam that can give you access not just to really awesome sales that happen typically once a quarter, but also access to free-to-play games. There's a wide variety of them, and a lot of them actually don't suck too. But there you have it, guys, my recommendations for getting into PC gaming in 2023 with, in my opinion, a fairly reasonable starting out price. Once again, I have some new how to build a PC tutorials in the works, so stay tuned for those. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and leave me some feedback in the comment section down below. Do you agree with my recommendations today? Do you think I should have aimed higher, like for a 4K gaming setup? What are you currently gaming on, and do you plan to upgrade in 2023? Leave me those answers in the comment section down below. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video on your way out. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.